We ended up just taking the kids to Disneyland this summer. Mark, what'd you do? Well, yeah, we ended up taking the kids to the lake. Me and Christine had such a good time. What about you, Tim? Yeah, we went golfing. We took the whole family golfing. I'm a lucky son of a bitch. Well, me and my buddies went and saw fish 11 times this summer.
Wow.
Yeah, went to Wisconsin, went to Indiana, went to Dover, Delaware. That's where I got this shirt.
Cool.
And then they ended it up at Dick's in Colorado.
I'm sorry, Dick's?
Dick's.
Okay.
Yeah, they closed out the whole run with Sabotage, so.
What the fuck is he talking about? I have no fucking clue.
They said they closed out the whole run with Sabotage. Mark, you said you went to the lake with your kids?
So from Wisconsin, how did you get into, I think I got introduced to you through the digital world of Instagram. I didn't realize you were a stand-up comedian. When did you get into comedy?
So I moved after college to Chicago. Really, I took a job with a family member in Chicago, but I also took that job knowing that I could really start maybe trying to pursue some comedy. Milwaukee didn't have a ton of outlets when I was in college there. And so, when I got to Chicago, started doing open mics pretty much right away. And then got into Second City and the improv and sketch world there that, Second City has produced so many Saturday Night Live members and all that kind of stuff. So I knew about it. I knew that was something that I could get into down there. And then, started taking those classes and kind of doing the whole comedy gambit in Chicago,
Did you, what'd you go to school for? And at what point were you just always kind of funny and people told you, man, you should do comedy? Or how did it start?
I would do sketches for stuff in high school, or I did sketches for stuff at my church when I was growing up, or all that kind of stuff. And it just wasn't, I went to a really small high school with no theater program. So it's not like there was a bunch of, plays going on that I could get super involved in. I just, I really liked comedy stuff. I loved comedy movies, and I kind of just like I was as a Fish fan, kind of going through all of the catalogs of all the music, I was going through every single sketch from SNL too. So I like loved it and, you know, knew about it and wanted to maybe try my hand at it a little bit when I moved to Chicago, and then just dove super, super into it. Yeah.
That's great. I grew up, I don't know if you can, you know, of course SNL is still good, but like when I really need some good laughs, I'll go back to like that old Bill Murray and Chevy Chase period of time.
Yeah.
That shit kills me still.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I feel like everybody loves their high school version of SNL. You know, like whatever was on when you were in high school is like your favorite, but I had uncles that had, you know, gone to high school in every era of it. And so like, you know, my dad loved all the Belushi and Bill Murray and Chevy Chase stuff, but then my uncle Eric loved all of the, you know, Eddie Murphy stuff in the mid 80s, and, you know, all of like when they would start using all these different awesome characters, and then into the 90s, like, yeah, like Farley and Sandler and, you know, like Chris Rock and that whole era is like really maybe my favorite, you know, just because I love Chris Farley so much. I'm such a Wisconsin guy. He just talks like everyone I know, and, you know, just wanted to be like that, you know.
Who do you? What current comedians are you into? Like, is there any? Like, I'm a Bill Burr guy, and I love. You know, it's a shame.
Oh yeah.
Oh, who's the other? God, who's the? I forget his name. Who's the guy that had the sex? Oh, Louis C.K. That was kind of weird what happened to him, but he was such a good fucking comedian.
Oh yeah, and I just loved, like, was really obsessed with his delivery. And he was someone who I was listening to a ton of as I'm getting into comedy, and so. Yeah, like I really have, it's different segments of favorite comedians, because I love like some certain stand-ups for what they do, but there's comedic actors that I love for what they do. But like some of my like favorites of all time, like I said, Chris Farley, Robin Williams, and like Steve Martin, and like these kind of like big ball of energy guys, like that bring this like element of something that you can't like write, you know, or you can't like, they're just like superhuman entertainers almost, these guys. And I've always been like super interested in what they were and all that, you know. Like
a Sam Kinison, like that guy was. I don't know if there'll ever be another Sam Kinison, but he was. God, he was
right. I always told all my uncles that when I was in Chicago, they were like, "Oh man, you got to be going to these crazy parties." And I'm like, you know, there's no like Sam Kinison like comedians out right now. It's a bunch of like gentle nerds. You know what I mean? Like really smart, really good writing nerd, like not partying super hard, not screaming, you know, till their veins pop out type guys. Yeah. There might not ever be a guy like that ever again.
So how did you? I've been really excited to talk to you for a number of reasons. I think it's really interesting what you do with your mashup of comedy and quote unquote jam band stuff. That shit killed. Yeah. Your videos fucking cracked me up. When did you get into Fish? Was that your first foray into like the jam band scene?
No, I mean, like I have an older brother, Kellen, who, like, my parents owned a restaurant growing up. Kellen was kind of like the main chef in that restaurant, and him and his buddies were like the Fish brain trust. They're like 10 years older than me, you know, and they were like going to a lot of shows, traveling for shows as much as they could, and that's all we were listening to in the kitchen, like doing prep and everything. And they would kind of like roast me for what I was listening to, being like, you got to listen to Fish. Just like typical Fish fans. Like totally that's all they listen to. Like that, you know, that's it. But I didn't go to shows with him and his friends. Like they were not about to maybe bring the little brother along in the early days. And so I didn't really go to shows until like 2018 is when I started really going to shows all the time.
Yeah.
But I've been a fan of him since I was a kid.
Actually, it's funny. When I was getting ready to call you, I spent a little bit of time, and I was looking back. I was a big Panic guy because we moved to Athens, Georgia, when I was 5. So of course, I got into Panic. Even with Panic, I was a little late. I didn't get introduced to them until like 97, when they were just kind of hitting their stride. But I didn't see my first Fish show until 2015. So I mean, you know, I wasn't too far off from where you were, but. Man, once you get introduced to that, where did you see him for the first time?
It was in Chicago. There was mainly this one guy, Andy, who I was in class with at Second City, who, again, he's 10 years older than me, had been to like hundreds of Fish shows. We talked about Fish a lot. And then at some point I kind of had to like come out to him that I hadn't been to a show yet. He's like, how do you possibly know this much about Fish having not been to a show? I'm like, I don't know. I just, haven't been. And he's like, they're coming soon. We're going. You're coming with me. And so he brought me to my first show for free. And it was awesome. Yeah, I was like, man, I've been missing it.
When you were, sorry, you said 2018 in Chicago?
Yeah, that's that. And so I'm like going through Second City courses. I'm like in their conservatory program at that point. Like that's when Andy kind of took me to my first show, and then I started going to shows all the time after that.
That's cool. When I got introduced to Panic, when I got introduced to Fish, like I had like my handful of favorites, but was there any particular Fish songs that you were extra fond of at the time?
Well, when we walked in late because we had floor bands, and there was like this. I mean, we got to the show plenty early. We were walking around the lot and everything, and we're going in plenty early, but there's this crazy long line to get into this one gate to get into the floor because there's like some wristband error or some situation. So a lot of people on the floor for that show didn't get in until like the second or third song. So by the time we got in, they are like kind of dropping into that ambient part of Reba. And I just, that's definitely one of the Mount Rushmore Fish songs for me and a bunch of people. And as we're like walking in, I'm just like kind of gobsmacked and like starting to like tear up a little bit, being like, Jesus, man, like how have I missed this? Like what was I doing?
Totally. pulled the set. I pulled the set list from when I went to. It was Lakewood Amphitheater in July. It was hot as shit. I remember that. Like Prince Caspian, Ghost, Wedge, MoMA Dance, Rift, Mike Song. Like I didn't Wickapop Groove. Like the whole show was killer. But at the time I didn't know what I was listening to, so I'm gonna have to go back on Live Fish and give this another listen, like knowing what I know now.
They played a couple of songs and a couple of covers that night that I didn't know that they would do. Like they played Golden Age that night, and that's TV. I don't listen to TV on the radio, so I didn't know. I was like, wow, I don't know what this song is. They also played the Mercury, which was kind of like a new song, not on an album or anything yet. And so I was like, what is this song? And it was, this great version. So there was a bunch of stuff I didn't know, but for the most part, I like knew what was going on,
Yeah. You'd been listening for a little bit, so you kind of knew.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I have to ask, I know that you are associated with, whoop, did you drop your phone?
I'm just living in the city. Got motorcycles coming by.
So I know you're associated with Osiris. Have you had the chance to meet Tom Marshall yet?
I got the chance to interview Tom Marshall.
Oh shit!
On the first season of the podcast, he that was kind of like the blessing. Him and RJ both did interviews separately for that first season.
Damn it!
Which was incredible. I mean, like I was very new to interviewing at the time. I was super excited to talk to Tom, and I was also like, I don't want to pry about, my show is called Best Show Ever, and we talk about seeing Phish shows, or a lot of Phish shows, but it's mostly seeing just concerts. What's your best concerts in your life? And I know that he's got stories of seeing stuff with Trey, so I didn't want to like pry, but he was really cool about offering up really cool stories of him and Trey growing up that, he's like, there's some stories I've told a million times on a million podcasts. And, let me tell this one story of us seeing King Crimson. And like, what a cool gift from that guy, like that he didn't have to be a guest on the podcast, and he didn't have to tell such cool stories. So
were you nervous as shit for that one?
Yeah. I wanted to be a good interview, but I also wanted it to be funny, and fun for him. But we had never met. And so we're doing this over Zoom, and I'm like, hopefully this is connecting. But he was super nice and like really down to goof around, and and he was super kind about it. And he also like, I'm a big Dogs in a Pile fan. They're from Asbury Park, New Jersey, and Tom gave this like amazing plug for those guys, and they were all pumped. They're like, oh my God, we got Tom Marshall talking about yeah, so that was awesome.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I've really enjoyed his podcast. And what I've found to be most entertaining, I think now that I've listened to Phish for a while and I know a lot more of the songs than I used to, they'll do these special episodes, as you're probably aware, they'll do these episodes where he'll like tell the story behind how the lyrics were made for a song. And that's super fascinating to me to like hear his take on where he was and like his headspace at the time, or, what things were about or whatever at the time. But yeah, that's cool. You got to meet him.
There's stuff from some of those podcasts that I've never forgotten that I think of every single time I'll hear the song, like in Blaze On, where they're talking about rolling eggs with living yolks, that he was talking about people driving in cars, the cars are the eggs and the people are the living yolks. I cannot unhear that. Every time I hear that in the song now, I've listened to all those episodes. I love his stuff.
The one where he talks about how he came up with Divided Sky, or I guess I guess they were together, maybe, if I remember the episode right. And they're talking about how they were looking at the sky, and that's kind of how that song was born. That's just neat to me. I'm a nerd like that.
I love that. I love that kind of stuff. It's not for everyone. It's definitely for me.
Well, hey, I another reason why I was excited to talk to you. I tell people all the time that one of the most energetic bands out on the scene, and I'm not just saying this because you've interviewed them a couple times, but I'm excited to talk to you about this to get your take. Goose.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, and sometimes I'll get kicked back, it's not for me, whatever. Man, those guys It's amazing to me that they really took COVID and embraced it and like figured out a way, like all the live streams they did. Point being, those guys are fucking great. And we saw them for the first time in Atlanta at Pullman Yards. My girlfriend's a big Creatures fan, and so they did this Creatures into Shamalama Ding Dong, and she was losing her fucking mind. But those guys are so much fun, man.
They're great. I mean, like, we are around the same age, and so I have this feeling of like being tied to them in that way.
Right.
Of like, man, look at these guys who are like my age, just fucking doing it, like really playing major, huge shows at, you know, Spec and Red Rocks and, you know, all these majorly huge venues. And it's so cool to watch their ascent, you know, because like you said, they really they like nailed COVID with a lot of good content, and they got people really excited to see them. And then they've delivered since, you know, they've been playing great. When you go see them, you leave the show being like, holy shit, that was awesome. And so people really, like have this connection to them of like, like these are my guys, you know, these, I want to see these guys win. And it's cool to be around.
Well, anybody that doubted anything to do with that, having to do with that band, when Rick got invited to play with Phil and Friends, I was like, yeah, he deserves that, because that guy shreds on the guitar.
And he loves that music so much, you can tell, you know, like he grew up listening to that music and is such a like student of it. And so, yeah, he does that Grateful Dead music justice when he's done playing in the sand and all that stuff. Rick is awesome, man.
That same show that we saw in Atlanta, one of my favorites at the time and still is Slow Ready, and they closed that. They closed that show down with I think the sickest Slow Ready I'd ever seen, and you know, with my girlfriend, you know, the first time I'd ever seen them. Yeah, and another thing, I listened to that Cotter interview that you did, and I was really impressed with like how vulnerable he was about like having to step onto that stage with those guys. You know, you could arguably say that they'd already really exploded in popularity, and to hear him say that he was aware of that, and even he would get the jitters like for a little while there getting on stage with those guys. That was a good interview, and I wanted to pay you that compliment.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. I mean, it is crazy to think about. He kind of knew those guys too when they were also in that like bar band area, era of their career, and so to watch them explode in that way, and then I mean, it just had to have been a crazy last year for him. But again, another guy who has just stepped up and delivered. I mean, right. Anyone who's seen Cotter live or been listening along to this last year of shows, you can tell. I mean, he is fantastic for them. Yeah.
What's some of your favorites that those guys play?
I am always looking for a Madhavan, and I've only gotten one. I got one in San Diego this last year. I love that song. And same thing with Born. I love Born, but I've never seen that song. The first time they ever played it was actually at the what should have been my first Goose show. Was at the LA Fonda show. It's like super cool small room. I think this was like 2022, like right when I moved there. And I had to work for some reason. I was like, oh man, I guess I'll just see them the next time around. And they like debuted Born, and it was like this awesome show. And that's one of my big like miss out experiences with those guys.
It ties back to the video that you made. The video you did of you not being able to go to New Year's, and your friends are calling you all pumped up.
Yeah, right.
So you missed that show, and you're like, God damn it.
It is my role, I have to be the guy that misses the show so I can make those videos.
That's right. So you just got back from Jam Cruise. How was that?
Man, such a cool experience. That is something that I would have never expected that I would have gone on. That is such a premium sort of experience. And so to get to perform and be a part of that whole crazy shindig that happens on that ship for multiple days, it was awesome, man. And the shows are great on there too. It's like the sit-in Super Bowl, like everybody's sitting in with everybody. It just makes for a really fun environment the whole time. Everyone's
it looked like I mean, is it just music 24/7 just on different parts of the ship, or is it like is there like quiet relaxed time during the day on the deck, or none of that?
Well, it's this weird thing of like there's no curfew because you're not in an area, so there's really no like headliner. Like music goes until like there were some acts that were scheduled like near 2:30 in the morning to start. And so the music kind of rolls all through the day and through the night, but it's not like when I would go back to my room in the hall, like it's bumping and, you can't go to bed. I feel like it was pretty quiet, like where my room was, at least. I don't know if that's everyone's experience, but when we would go back and try to like catch a little nap and then wake up and try to see someone late or something, we were able to do that. No problem. And so, it is really amazing, like how they pull that experience off. There are all these stages and you are fully at sea, and it's not like there's any sound issues or, anything's going haywire. Like they really, they run a tight ship. What can I say?
Is that a Cloud9 thing?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I've seen that happen a few times, and I've had some friends go. I've just not been able to dedicate the time. But are they like porting and you can get off and kind of like a cruise?
Yeah, we stopped in Cozumel for the first day, and there's all these different like, excursions you can do. It's just like a normal regular cruise, except for there's also a jam band festival happening on it. And so all the food was phenomenal, and there's like there would be like specialty chefs at midnight every night, so you could go and get these specialty chef dinners. And there were some nicer restaurants within the ship that you could do like a upcharge sort of evening if you wanted to do that too. But yeah, I was really like blown away by how well it was run, and how good of an event it was.
That's cool. That's cool. How many days is it?
Yeah, it's 5.
5 days.
So
Man.
I think that there's like 2 full at sea days, and then there's a day you stopped in Cozumel. There's a day we stopped in Belize, and then there's like the kind of like day we get back and the day we took off. So
I saw you had a chance to talk to Andy Frasco, and I'm sure you were able to connect with a lot of different people. Is there any music that you heard on that ship that you were like, damn, that maybe you didn't know about before?
I gotta tell you, like, it's the guy that you just mentioned. Like, I love Andy. I love his podcast. His music is great. I've never seen him live.
Me neither. Yeah.
His show blew me away on the ship. I mean, like, I'm not even trying to blow smoke. The guy is like such an incredible frontman, and I think especially in that environment where it's like, there's a bunch of different sit-ins happening. It's almost like the wheels of the show are falling off because there's all these moving parts. He really thrives in that environment, and his band is able to adapt to everything. And so I know that, like, he's been on this major tour right now, and he's been going around and having guests at every single show. And yeah, the show's just super exciting and a lot of energy, and songs are awesome. He's got all this new music out that the band's excited about. And so that was awesome. And then, getting to see people like Steve Kimmock or George Porter Jr. In any setting, those guys were kind of sitting in with everybody and doing a lot of improvising with people. Like, that is just cool to watch. Super cool to watch.
Well, and Steve and George came to check out one of your sets I saw, right?
Yeah, man, that was crazy.
I know, you're like, what the fuck?
It was like right before the show, and when I do these sets at festivals, I've been improvising. And so I don't have a set, really. I have maybe some things I can kind of fall back on, but I really don't have too much of a plan. And like right before we're about to start, Annabelle, who's kind of running the event, sees George walking through the crowd, and she's like, "Oh, George, I want you to meet Cam really quick." And he walks over and he's like, I was going to go get some dinner because I'm hungry, but my wife wanted to watch the show, so I'm going to stick around. And I'm like, great. That's awesome, George. I don't have a set. That's great. I hope it better be good.
Are you
Are
you doing a lot of
crazy?
Are you doing a lot of crowd work, or are you just kind of flowing with it? Like, that's intriguing to me that you don't have like a structured. Well, I don't want to say a structure, but you're kind of going by the seat of your pants. But is there a lot of crowd work in your show?
Well, like doing the Second City thing got me really comfortable with improvising.
Oh, cool.
I did so much of that in Chicago, a lot of the times like with a group, but also by myself. And so it is really like structured in a way where it's kind of like it was a half hour, but I made it like kind of 10 to like 3 different 10 minutes. Like the first one is just kind of standard setup, punchline, stand up, and then I helped. I had Dogs in a Pile help me out with my set, and they sat in, and they have like when they're a jazz trio of just their bassist, their keyboardist, and their drummer. They're cats in a stack, and so they were they were the cats in the stack, and we did this kind of like jazz, like kind of Dean Martin sort of like lounge act thing, and then I ended it with some crowd work as Bob Weir. I would like go around asking people questions as Bob Weir. And so like, and like that, all that stuff is like very open and, tons of room to breathe and interact with the band. And I'm just starting to get into that stuff. And so it was really cool for like Cloud9 and Jam Cruise to be like, yeah, well, we'd love to see it. I told them straight up I was going to improvise, and they were like, we love it. So that's cool.
Have you met Bobby yet?
I have not met Bobby yet. There was a time where his manager reached out and was just like, just so you know, he's seen the videos, like his daughters have shown him the videos and they've got a really good laugh out of it. And so, like that was about as cool of a compliment as I've ever received in my comedy career. And like, that is good enough for me. If I never get to meet the man, all good. But like, knowing that it got a chuckle out of him, like that's, man.
God, I hope you get to meet him sometime. That'd be so funny if you could get like.
I would of course like never do it in front of him unless he was down for it. But it's cool to know that at least like I said, got a little chuckle out of him.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Monet. I mean, I don't know. I forget his other daughter's name, but I bet they keep him up on what's going on out there. So that's cool. And you do your impression is so spot on. It's great.
Well, it's my birthday today, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of happy birthday messages from my many adoring fans, but I also want you guys to give some happy birthdays to my ugly-ass friend here, John Mayer. Look at this ugly sack of shit. We've been playing together for a while now, I've been trying to help him with his style. He used to dress like this, so pretty much an absolute train wreck. But he's much cooler now, all my people love him. Well, not all my people love him, but, we gave him some direction, and he's almost cool. He's not quite there yet, but he's pretty far off. Happy birthday, John.
Well, what kind of, I don't want to keep you too long. I want to be respectful of your time, but I wanted to ask you, what music are you spinning right now? Who are people sleeping on? I'm going to look up. I've not listened to Dogs in a Pile. I've been on like Spafford and Eggy kick lately, but I'm going to check out Dogs in a Pile.
Spafford and Eggy, both fantastic. And Eggy, they just went through the West Coast. If you can listen to any of those West Coast shows, I think they have them all on YouTube right now, the full show. Like, those guys are awesome right now. Eggy is just having a lot of fun, like a very laid back, like easy energy out of those guys. And then Dogs in a Pile, I've been loving those guys for a couple of years now. I love the voice of their jamming. Like, it's just a very cool vibe. And each member of that band just so talented. They don't really have like a main dude. They're all just so equally talented and like young as hell. They're like 26 or something like that out of New Jersey. And so I love those dudes. And then, I listen to the two major Australian bands that I'm super into right now.
Oh, I know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
Yeah. King Giz and the Lizard Wizard. Those guys are fucking amazing. And then Parcels as well, which is a completely separate, completely different vibe. But yeah, those guys are both coming through for some U.S. tours, and I got to see both of them last year, and those were like the shows of the year for me. If you get a chance to see either one of those guys, you are a lucky son of a gun. They're awesome.
Did you? Are you going to be out at Folsom?
Yeah, that's the plan. If not, I'll be at High Sierra, because I live in the Bay Area now, kind of like a California guy. And so there's a kind of like a jam music festival out here that happens every summer, High Sierra.
We went a few years ago, and it was beautiful setting. The weather was just right. I'm a little older now, so I don't camp as much as I used to, but it was the temperature was great. I gotta go look. I have the poster. I gotta go look back and see who was playing, but that's a great festival.
Oh yeah, it's like Northern California, like very, very heady ground, so if I'm not at Fish, I will be at that.
Cool. How can people find you and plug any shows you got coming up, man?
Yeah, I will. On Instagram, I'm at Mr. Cam. That's where you can find all my info, all my videos, all that stuff. Right now, the Best Show Ever podcast has got new episodes coming out weekly.
Great.
And so you can check that out. Like you said, the Cotter interview is out right now, and I've got a bunch coming out over the next month here. So look out for those. And then I'm looking at doing some more of these, live, like pop-up kind of around the jam band scene shows coming up soon. And it looks like the next one's definitely going to be in Chicago before the United Center run.
Nice.
At the place that I used to host my show in Chicago at I.O. And so that should be really fun. And yeah, I'll definitely be posting about that. You'll get the insight.
Well, man, we'll keep doing what you're doing, man. I think, it's a weird time financially, politically. I love a good laugh just to kind of keep positive thoughts in my head. And your page on IG brings me a lot of joy. So keep doing what you're doing, man. I hope you continue to blow up.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, anything to kind of take away from what we got to read about all the time. I love making videos that are, funny to me anyway. So they'd be going out anyway. It's cool that people are connecting with them.
Well, I'll give you a holler. If we're dreaming of, it's just so expensive to stay. It's not getting there, and it's not the tickets. It's the hotels and shit that's really hard to travel to shows. But we've talked about it, and I've got some friends in Boulder. So I'll ping you I'd love to have a beer with you. Cam,
That'd be great.
keep up the good work, man. I know you're just a joy to watch, man, and I really like what you're doing. Especially, and it matches these my two loves of comedy and live music, man. I'm really digging what you're doing.
Man, I really appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, would love to grab a beer with you at a show soon here, dude.
All right, man. Well, I will let you go. I'm sure you got shit to do on the weekend, but thanks for giving me some of your time. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.